Hello, and it's time for the Raw review here on Wrestling with Regret. Let's just dive right in. We're a couple weeks away from Extreme Rules, or according to the full Christian name for the show now, the horror show at Extreme Rules. Don't threaten us with a good time. The champion, Drew McIntyre, opens the show and talks about his match with Dolph Ziggler at the pay-per-view. He makes a very timely Austin Powers reference about sharks with laser beams in their heads when talking about the kind of matches that Dolph could pick for the stipulation. Ziggler himself comes out and says, "It's a secret." He's not telling anyone what the stipulation is going to be until Extreme Rules. The two are shouting back and forth at each other about their respective resumes, and Dolph accuses Drew of having stabbed people in the back to get to where he is now. People like the recently fired Heath Slater. Slater shows up, the one-man rock band is back, baby, and he's looking pretty sullen here. He talks about how many years he and Drew McIntyre go back and everything, and how, you know, when Drew was released, Heath made sure to check on him and call him every day. So he was there, I was there for you. Where the hell were you for me, man? Heath wants a match with Drew, something that he said that Drew promised him months ago back on the bump and everything. And so Drew says no at first, but Heath, he basically goads him into it by shoving him and slapping him. So the match happens after the commercial break. The match begins. The match ends in like 10 seconds. Heath gets a couple of shots in, but he eats a claymore. Drew wins pretty handily. And then afterward, Dolph tries to kind of like attack Heath some more, but Drew makes a save, chases Dolph away, and so he celebrates. You have an emotional moment with the friends here, Drew and Heath, and Heath gets a bit of a curtain call, gets time to bow and everything. That was kind of a cool moment there. I felt very similar kind of Drake Maverick-y vibes when Heath was brought out to talk about, oh, this poor thing that happened to me, but it's like, yeah, but the company did that to you and they didn't have to do that to you, and here we are now. Still cool to see Heath back even for a little bit. Hopefully this means something more for him down the line, but if not, it was a cool little kind of like exclamation point or a final stamp on his story arc in the company that we didn't really get to see a good conclusion to, but here with Drew, at least there's that at the end. Backstage, Bayley and Sasha Banks are meant to be interviewed, but they brush Sarah Schreiber off, and so they're going to talk in the ring. And then in the same shot, Asuka appears, and Sarah asks Asuka, so how are you going to take care of these two ladies all by yourself tonight? And Asuka goes, who says I'm all alone? Snicker, snicker, shuffle, shuffle off the frame. And then we see the champions in the ring. They're putting themselves over big time here, and they're using a lot of different nicknames associated with numbers, like so-and-so dose straps and so-and-so 3 brands and everything. Asuka appears and tells Sasha she's bad at math, and Bayley's not ready for Asuka. Bayley kind of steps in it again and talks on Sasha's behalf and makes a match for her, essentially, for whoever Asuka's bringing out. It's Kairi Sane, Asuka's tag team partner from the Kabuki Warriors. Haven't seen her in a good little while, so good to see her back. So an impromptu match with Kairi and Sasha for the first time ever is on here. At one point in commentary, Samoa Joe takes a shot at Byron Saxton, so there's Bayley dose straps and there's Byron zero amigos, and Byron goes, that's not accurate. And so anyway, it's a really good match here. So it's too bad that it of course ends in a disqualification when Bayley jumps Kairi mid-submission. All 4 of the ladies fight, and on the outside, Kairi hits the 2 baddies with the insane elbow from the top rope to the outside to end the segment. So kind of a lame ending to this particular matchup. You would have liked to have seen a clean finish here, but we're not done yet with these 4 ladies. There's more to develop later in the night. So we're supposed to get a tag team match later between Seth Rollins and Murphy versus Rey Mysterio and Aleister Black, but we see backstage Aleister's been laid out by Seth and Murphy, and he happens to be wearing a Rey Mysterio mask at the time. That seems to be Seth's kink these days. He won't beat people up unless they're wearing the mask. Elsewhere, we see the Big Show trying to psych up and give a pep talk to the Viking Raiders here, who are a bit too jovial for show's liking, and saying that these guys aren't to be taken lightly. You've got to get your head in the game. No bowling, none of these. And then the Vikings are also like, oh, we like edgy Christian too. Here's our 5-second pose. And then before they do it, though, Show chops them both and gets them all amped up and angry. The raid will be on and whatnot. And that's how we end that segment. But by the way, mazel tov to Eric and Sarah Logan for expecting their first child. It's time for the Kevin Owens show with the returning Kevin Owens. Haven't seen him in a bit of a while. He preemptively clears the ring of furniture before he brings out his guest for the evening, his old WrestleMania rival, Seth Rollins. He kind of rubs salt into the wound by offering Seth a gift of a KO Mania shirt, but Seth kind of shrugs it off and even says, hey, you may have beat me at WrestleMania, but in the months since then, you've been sitting with an ankle injury. Meanwhile, I've been doing great here on Raw and whatnot. He uses Kevin's platform as a tool for the greater good by challenging Rey Mysterio to a match at Extreme Rules, and then he tries to appeal to Kevin and try and recruit him to the Messiah Maniacs. Rey Mysterio and Dominic show up, and Rey accepts Seth's challenge for the pay-per-view, but ups the ante and says this tag team match should help determine who picks the stipulation for the matchup. And so Seth goes, hey, like, I'd love to do this, but where's your partner? Aleister Black has been, just dumped into obscurity for a little bit, so who's going to back you up? Kevin Owens volunteers himself, and so we have that match. Seth healing on Dominic a couple of times throughout the match here. Ray's about to hit a double 619, but Seth bails out of the ring and kind of holds Dominic hostage. Out comes Aleister Black, and he stares down Seth, who wants him to hit him so he can be disqualified, so he can actually pick the stipulation. But in the process, Dominic attacking Murphy's eyes, and then he throws him into the ring, causes him to walk right into a 619 and the frog splash. Rey Mysterio, in his big in-ring return, by the way, wins for his team. And then Rey picks a stipulation. It's going to be an eye for an eye match where I guess if he wins, he gets to pluck and gouge out Seth Rollins' eye with his bare hands. They're promoting that. And then I love how the commentary bashes you over the head with it afterward. We're saying, that stipulation is extreme. And Byron Saxton goes, it's going to be horrific. Boo. So yeah, that's the stipulation apparently. Eye for an eye. If I win, I get to pluck your eye from your skull, Jacob Goodnight style. Nothing says guaranteed win for Seth Rollins like the threat of extreme bodily harm. Bobby Lashley and MVP make their way to the ring. As they make their intro, we find out that because MVP beat Cruz in the non-title match last week, they have a title match at Extreme Rules. So I was kind of thrown for a loop. I thought this whole time we were building up to Lashley versus Apollo Crews for the title. We're not getting that at all right now. It's MVP. MVP says that because he beat Apollo last week in the non-title match, he's basically might as well be the new U.S. champion right now. He unveils the brand new U.S. title, and it's I'm conflicted about it. Because on the one hand, I think that, first of all, I've seen some close-up pictures of it, some more high-def pictures. Craftsmanship-wise, looks like it's very well put together. It looks like it's probably another Wildcat Belts production, similar to the past belts they've made for the company. They've also made this belt behind me here. They do very good work, and so I think just looking at the makeup of the belt, looks like it's very well put together. I love the very prominent eagle at the bottom of the center plate, but I'm not 100% in love with the shape of that center plate. And I think the text in the middle where it says U.S. Champion, it doesn't really fit for me. I think this one takes some getting used to. I think it'll look better in some lighting than others. That first lighting you saw, you couldn't really get a good look at the relief of the metalwork or the color scheme on it. I think if you look at the image of the belt like a flat lighting, it looks better than in that lighting we saw in the unveiling. So, I'm not 100% in love with that belt. I think that it's a step back. My gut reaction is step backward from the old design, but we'll see what happens. It all takes getting used to, and eventually I'll be over it. MVP wants to put the belt on, but then Ricochet and Cedric Alexander show up to speak on behalf of their friend Apollo, who is just kind of not here tonight for some reason. And they say, they want the Hurt Business to go into Chapter 11. They all has fight. We have an impromptu tag team match. MVP, by the way, still wearing his full suit. So he wrestles in a suit in this match, so kudos to him for being able to pull that off. Cedric and Ricochet have a couple of moments to shine here, especially Cedric during his hot tag near the end. But ultimately, he falls. He's taken out by a spear from Lashley. And that's how the baddies win here. They want to do some more damage to Cedric in the end after the bell rings, but Ricochet makes the save and they scurry their way out. Backstage, Ric Flair talking to Zelina Vega and her crew, who appear to still be having some problems, it seems. Then Randy Orton shows up and threatens Angel, Garza, and Andrade not to screw things up in their six-man tag match. Elsewhere, the Kabuki Warriors are interviewed, and Asuka says that if she beats, or when she beats Bayley tonight, she and Kairi want to challenge Bayley and Sasha for the women's tag team titles next week. Kairi plays them off with their theme on the recorder. It's a shame that if the reports are to be believed, Kairi's going to leave and head back to Japan once her contract is up. It's too bad they're letting her do that, because I think they're sitting on a small fortune with licensed recorders. We go to that six-man up next as the Big Show and the Viking Raiders take on a Legacy 2.0, I guess you could call them. It's Randy Orton, Angel Garza, and Andrade. A whole lot of multi-generational talent in the makeup of that team there. The continuing conflict between Andrade and Angel as the match goes on. At one point, Angel bails, or Orton actually tells Angel to get out of the ring and throttles him and gives him a pep talk and tells him not to fuck this up for him and everything. That was probably the most engaging, captivating moment of the entire night, I would argue. Big Show makes his hot tag. Orton tries to hit him with an RKO from behind, but he can't bring the big man down. A Viking experience attempt on Angel, but Andrade makes the save, and that leads Orton to hit Eric with the RKO to win for his team. I thought it was an okay match, but I guess like what I'm noticing from this whole thing with Orton right now, I think there's too many people involved in the Randy Orton saga right now. I think Ric Flair is an unnecessary kind of garnish, a piece of flair, if you will, for Orton's character right now. And then we've got the Big Show. Oh, that's fine. That's a natural progression. Technically, you still have Edge and Christian part of the storyline, but now you've got like Zelina Vega and Andrade and Angel also involved. There's way too many cooks in this kitchen. And I think that Orton's thing, like, let's try and keep things a little more minimalistic with Orton's build right now. I think that would speak a lot more, have a lot bigger impact than what they're doing right now. Backstage, the Iconics are talking some trash about Ruby Riott, who then shows up and threatens to beat them up in their match later on. As the two parties split off and we see Ruby walking down past the ring, we pan over to see MVP and Cedric Alexander having a chat just mere feet away. I liked that little move. That was pretty cool. And then in that scene, we see MVP trying to, recruit Cedric to join forces with him. Says, don't be Ricochet's sidekick. Why does Ricochet have a network special and you don't? And Cedric's trying to stand up for himself and everything. He says he knows what MVP is trying to do, but MVP says, good luck. We're in the hurt business. You'll be in the catering business. You'll be there for the rest of your career, being the sidekick and looking on for the sidelines and everything. MVP just planting the seeds everywhere as he continues to carry around what is basically he assumes to be his U.S. Championship belt. I like that kind of little gimmick here where he's kind of holding that carrot over Apollo's head, where he's the presumptive, next U.S. champion. And so he's going to get his own belt to call his own. Elsewhere, Ric Flair and Randy Orton are having a chat when R-Truth bumps into them, and Truth is able to de-escalate things by confusing Ric Flair for Akira Tozawa in disguise. It happens, but then Tozawa and his ninjas show up, and Truth goes, "Two Tozawas!" and runs off. And Orton actually does Truth a favor here by misguiding the ninjas, telling them that he went like this other way when he actually went the other way. So it's weird. Like, Orton is very strangely helpful and respectful and kind of benevolent at times. Like, he's got a really weird dynamic here where in one, even the interactions he had with Angel and Andrade on this night, where he's like, I respect you guys because you're third generation athletes and this and that, but I'll fucking kill you if you get in my way. So it's like, but in this case here, it's like he could have knocked Truth's block off here, but instead he kind of does him a solid. It's like, he went that way. Like, it's so interesting. It's hard to read Orton's character right now, because we even saw that when he was doing the stuff where he was snapping on like Edge and Christian and Matt Hardy and everything, where he's like back and forth between like apologetic but also mad at them. He's definitely a conflicted character, and I don't know if this was if this had any greater meaning in the scene, but that's what I picked up on. Ruby Riott taking on Billie Kay of the Iconics here. I like this little counter in the match where Ruby's in a bow and arrow and she basically kind of breaks out of it and turns in midair and lands in a pinfall on Billie. In the middle of the match, Ruby loses one of her hair extensions, and after some interference by Peyton Royce, Billie is able to capitalize and beat Ruby Riott. So for the last 2 weeks, the Iconics have taken her out in singles action, and I guess they're just setting up that obvious reunion between Liv Morgan and Ruby Riott, I should say. But as far as when they're going to pull the trigger on that, time will tell. Backstage, in another interview with the tag team champions, Sasha, in kind of a bit of a turnaround here, speaking on Bayley's behalf and accepting Asuka's challenge for that tag title match next week should Asuka win tonight. We go to that main event match now, champion versus champion, Asuka versus Bayley. I feel this is the second champion versus champion match in 3 or 4 weeks. I hope there's not too much to read into that, the lack of depth right now with the star power in the shows. This was, by the way, Nikki Cross is on commentary for a little bit until she's ejected for getting too much in Bayley's business here. It's a really good match. Asuka with a devastating back elbow at one point to Bayley. It looked so snug. Bayley gets spooked on the outside when she sees Nikki Cross back out there, but she's in the crowd behind the plexiglass this time. She gets back in the ring, and there's some pins and counter pins and holds and counter holds between her and Asuka. Finally, Kairi intercepts Sasha Banks, who's trying to interfere, and then Asuka rolls Bayley up to win the match. So Raw champion beats the SmackDown champion this week, and we're going to have a tag title match next week. And I thought it was, a great way to end the show. A very strong main event. My grade for this week's Raw is a C-. I just found myself kind of bored with a lot of stuff here. I like Randy Orton as is by itself, but then when you tack on all these different accoutrements to his gimmick and his storyline, I feel it kind of bogs him down and it dilutes the awesomeness of that character right now. I like seeing Heath Slater come back there, but it felt a little bit exploitive, and I hope that this would mean that there's more opportunity for him and maybe he can get a good chance to come back. I mean, that promo he cut was great on the top of the show here, and it was nice to see all this focus on like arguably the four best women on the main roster right now: Sasha, Bayley, Asuka, and Sane here. And the arc they had with all four of them throughout the night I thought was pretty well done. But the six-man tag, like I said, take it or leave it. The new U.S. Championship, with a little bit of time and better lighting, I think it will be better to look at. Besides that, though, there wasn't a whole lot I could really take away from this show. But those are just my thoughts, folks. What do you think about Raw this week? Let me know in the comments section below. I'll see you later this week for my TNA Hardcore Justice 2010 review this Wednesday. And of course, Night 2 of Great American Bash versus Fyter Fest on Thursday with my Wednesday Warfare coverage. I'm Brian Zane, and I'll see you next time.